I'm sure everyone and their mothers has been informed of the announcement of another Xbox Game Pass price hike. This is to no one's surprise in all honesty, and it has been very clear Microsoft is trying, and partly failing, to maximise its profits from the Xbox division since the gargantuan purchase of Activision for $69 billion. The company has had a real stark change of focus and direction. Since this purchase, we have seen Xbox lose elements of its identity to try and recoup the cost of this expenditure. Now, whether we believe them or not when it comes to Game Pass being profitable, that's, well, down to the individual. But for many like me, we will be questioning if it was really that profitable to begin with, since they've decided to do a 50% price hike of their best tier and also take features away from previous tiers. On top of the fact they have not once but twice bumped their hardware costs, once globally and once again in the US market, which sure, we can chalk some of that up to the tariffs, but it shows a very out of touch approach in the grand scheme of things. Even if we look outside of the hardware and services they provide, sure, their first-party publishing lineup has been pretty strong the last year or two, but it is likely going the way of Sega and becoming essentially a glorified third-party publisher that just has a few perks if you are in their hardware ecosystem. But I don't feel like the perks are enough to offset the new direction the company is going as a whole. Since they've started porting their games over to PlayStation and Switch, I think the money that has been coming in has been giving them enough of an incentive for them to think that now this is a mandatory thing for them to keep up and to keep Game Pass alive. Now, back at the end of June, I was invited by Coach Marv for an interview, and I back then said what many would be considering a hot take about Game Pass.
So my main one is I think Game Pass is going to kill Xbox at some point. I think it
console.
I would. I think the hardware there already is showing the inclination to leave it at some point, maybe one more generation, and I think that's it.
Now, after recent events, I don't want to sit there and say, "Ha, I told you so." But we are definitely a step closer now than we were before, and I mean, even the website link for unsubbing to Game Pass went down for around 90 minutes or so, which sure, in the larger picture, the amount of influx could be minimal, but it's the long-term damage to the company, I feel, which is more important. When does it end? Does the service keep price hiking? Does a new tier get added in? Which, by the way, there are rumours contemplating around an ad-based version, which I mean, do we really want to be spammed with ads for our gaming service? You know, we play games to escape from reality, not have it constantly injected into our eyes with rigorous ad placements. But anyway, so let's break it down what exactly the online space is saying, or should I say reacting with, in regards to this new announcement and the direction the company's taken as a whole. We have major Xbox fans who are renowned in the gaming community for once not being able to defend the company's direction. Some people feel that the price still isn't too much of an offset to the benefits provided, and I'll get to that in a minute, but once again, people are very narrow-minded when it comes to the intrinsic issues this has long-term to the consumer. So one of the perks of Game Pass was having day one games. This has changed over time, where you originally just had 2 tiers of Game Pass, and then the last year they introduced a 3rd tier called Core, which essentially is a glorified version of Xbox Live Gold, and that didn't include this perk. Now, as of the recent announcements, only the highest tier, which is Game Pass Ultimate, will have the perks of day one games, outside of the completely separate PC Game Pass, which, while price increased, hasn't really changed all that much in the grand scheme of things. I will say credit where credit is due though, and PC Game Pass is technically being added into Core and Premium, which previously didn't exist. So there is some benefit, but that's if you also benefit from playing on PC as well as the core console experience. Core, or should I say now named Essential, will be borderline the same, albeit with them now taking hundreds of games to choose from to now about 50 plus, which we don't know what comes to the players in terms of game selection, but I digress. The middle tier, labeled Premium, which was the standard version originally, get access to 200 plus games, shorter queue times on xCloud streaming, and now the biggest sticking point, it loses day one games in favour for within the first 12 months. Now, this is too broad, as they say within. Is it a couple of months? The full 12? Depending on title popularity? Like, would it be, like, say, Sea of Thieves releases in today's world mean like a 5-month wait, but then the new Call of Duty is 12? We can only speculate about the whole thing, but it's still a sour taste to the mouth. Now comes Game Pass Ultimate, which has access to 400 plus games, streaming games at their best, which has now been upgraded by the way to 1440p, and includes the shortest wait times. EA Play is still included, but now with the addition of 2 new services, Ubisoft Plus, and in November, Fortnite Crew. which at face value do give value to the price hike. Fortnite Crew alone would equate the price jump without Ubisoft Plus. However, the problem here is why should we pay more for services we may or may not use? I know for people who play Fortnite on Xbox and have Game Pass may benefit massively from it being implemented together than say other players who don't. But as many have said online, why have they not just implemented variable pricing or allow you to pick and choose the perks of your package to set a price for yourself? Ubisoft Plus isn't really the best service to be touting as an addition, as most of the games on offer there are usually games you see constantly in sales for cheap bargain bin prices, so it's probably better for you to just buy them outright. But then here comes the dilemma, and that is Ultimate for a year is £275 in the UK, and some people still think it's more than reasonable for what the service is providing. Once again, this depends on the individual, and you have to go into specific variables as well. £275 is around 4 major releases, full priced either physically or digitally, 6 if you really push about shopping about physically only in certain retailers, which you will then say, but I have access to 400 plus titles or so it's still better, and I get it. The problem is games on Game Pass are removed and replaced every month. While some major hits can stay for longer terms of time, I suppose it is down to the data Microsoft or Xbox see on their side. Each game is like a contractual agreement for X amount of time. Some games that are way more popular on the service may indeed be contract renewed or stay indefinitely. The issue here is that say one person really liked playing certain games and then they leave the service, they are forced to then have to buy the games again, essentially double dipping. This itself is a practice that we shouldn't be encouraging, but Xbox itself is banking on you to be so invested in the catalogue that when certain games are pulled, they're hoping you go and double dip. Now for some they think it's fine and can afford it, and that it's alright, like I'm glad you feel like you can afford it. However, the way the world is at the moment with rising costs of living and a service that originally seemed pro-consumer has slowly shifted into anti-consumer practices, they've lured everyone in with a great deal and have slowly been upping the prices hoping everyone wouldn't batter an eye. But now, with this price hike, I think it's made a lot of people just now wake up and notice. Now I want Xbox to do well, I don't want them to vanish, but as I've said in the video clip above back in June, Game Pass might eventually just be the stake that finishes off Xbox long term, but I hope I'm wrong with the recent hardware, software and service hikes, but I'm just not so sure anymore. I feel like I missed the 360 PS3 era or even the Xbox One PS4 era, as then the companies were trying their best to compete for your money. This generation as a whole feels more like we are being robbed by them all, and being told to be thankful. It's such a shame how much has changed since this generation has started, but that's a video for an entire different day. But those are just some of my off-the-cuff thoughts. What do you think about the situation and the effect this might have on yourself? Let me know in the comments below, and if you liked the video, please leave a like and subscribe, or if you're watching this over on my other socials, pop me a follow there. I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll catch you all in the next video.